I'm Effie Barker. We are right here in downtown Los Angeles. When you say we're not going away with these issues, what are those issues? Good evening. Welcome to the special edition of Ugnayan. I'm Effie Barker. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Wherever you are in the world, welcome to Effie Barker Human Interest. Today, we are very much thrilled because we are going to be joined by a medical doctor from the Philippines who migrated here in the United States in 2002. And currently, he is a professor at the University of California, Los Angeles. Dr. Joe Gamo. Hello, good afternoon.
Hello, good afternoon, Effie. I'm honored to be your guest today, and I'm more than willing to share whatever I know about mental health.
We are going to be talking about mental health issues. What are the things that we should be looking at and the signs? What are the things that might help you go through your journey into healing, right?
Yes.
So again, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. I know you're also very busy. Thank you so much for squeezing us into your schedule.
Sure.
And I know I've been asking you this before, but of course, we will talk about it when you are ready. And I'm glad that you said yes for this. Your son committed suicide. Talk us through what happened, and is this something that you've seen already?
Yeah, my son, his name is Miguel Antonio Gamo, and when he passed away September 29, 2019. He jumped from the Coronado Bridge in San Diego and at 4 in the morning. So his body just, of course, appeared 4 days later. We thought that initially we thought we were just missing, but apparently when we found out that the car was on top of the bridge, so it dawned on us that he actually died of suicide. My son was suffering from depression, but we never knew about his depression. If you look at his picture here, he's always smiling, right? And depression is when somebody feels a feeling of hopelessness and helplessness, which apparently they cannot seem to understand, right? Whenever you think of depression, you think of somebody who doesn't go to work, somebody who does not go out of the house, just stays at home. And not my son, because he was working, he was smiling all the time, he went sailing, and practically he was doing everything that a young man would do. Like he was rock climbing, and never did I think that he was suffering from depression. It seems that he was depressed since grade school. I have a feeling he was far from grade school, but it only manifested when he was on second year of college in 2015 and 2016. He was a student at UC San Diego. He was taking up chemical engineering. And we found out because of the medical records that he was actually seeing a psychotherapist at that time.
Oh, so he's aware.
He was aware because he went to see a psychotherapist. The problem was he was not referred to a psychiatrist. Now, there's a big difference between those two. Only a psychiatrist who is a graduate of a doctorate of medicine can prescribe antidepressants. My son was diagnosed with depression, severe anxiety disorder and depression, and he was being seen for almost, 3 to 4 years.
Were you aware of this? That he went?
I wasn't. You know why? Because here in the United States, we have the HIPAA privacy laws. When your son or child turns 21 or 18 or 21, they cannot tell us.
Okay.
Why? Because of privacy law. He's an adult. Unless he would say, okay, please tell my mom, please tell my dad.
This is very scary for me listening to it because, I mean, as a parent now, my baby is still little, but like, it's scary for me not to, you didn't see this coming. And so what are the things? How would we know?
It's very difficult because there's the great possibility that they will mask their signs and symptoms, okay? He comes home smiling, he does his usual thing, he plays video games with his friends. You wouldn't really know unless you are going to explore. If he has a diary, now I know it's not good to be looking at the diary of your child, but honestly, they found out that there was an entry in his diary when one time he left his diary here, and my wife saw it, and my wife said, oh, there's an entry that says there are times when I feel lonely. So that word alone is a sign of depression, mild depression. Nobody will say lonely unless they're depressed. Okay, so there are categories of depression from mild, moderate, and severe. So it could have started as mild, and it became more severe later on as time went by. And the usual thing we normally think, oh, somebody's depressed, he doesn't go to sleep, he lacks sleep, he doesn't eat, right? But that's not the case. My son was doing all the usual thing. He was eating regularly. He was a vegetarian. He was an outdoors man. He would rock climb and sail.
I know you're very vocal now about what you go through and you feel about this depression. I searched on your Facebook and I've seen an essay that he wrote that there was a man that was wearing. Talk to me about it.
That's the sad part, because when I brought my son here, this was him. This is Miguel when he was only 6 years old, and Miguel was such a young boy. And when he was growing up in the Philippines, in Davao, he had a nice time there. He was enjoying, and now when he came here to the United States with me here, apparently I was working hard. You know, being an immigrant here, I had to work Monday to Sunday. I would work whenever I was needed, and the problem was that I became an absentee father. So when the thing on Facebook where I said there was a time when my son would actually wrote an essay here in Maxwell School.
So this is something you've read before or just now?
Yeah, I accidentally found an essay like maybe 8 years ago, 10 years ago. I just completely ignored it, or I read it and I said, okay, at least he knew that I was working hard. But I did not realize how the impact on his mental health. He said, there's a man in the house, he wears white, he goes to the work with a lab gown white, which of course being a doctor, I was teaching in a nursing school at that time. And he would say, this man is like a stranger to me. I don't know this guy, you know. But he leaves early at 4 in the morning, because my work was in LA and we live in Anaheim, so that's almost 2 hours of travel. And then he comes home at 11 at night. I'm both sleeping at those instances. So,
And he's actually my dad.
And he's my dad.
And then he said at the end, my dad loves me. My dad wants to work hard for us.
So, what is the lesson learned here? I never bothered to ask my son and talk to him and assure him that, hey, you know what? I'm here for you. I'll be there whenever you need me. In retrospect, I should have talked to him and reassure him. Because he needed somebody like a father figure. I wasn't there for him. I was working hard. We would occasionally go together to church, Catholic church, every Sunday, because my wife is Catholic, and that's the only time we eat out. So I would say the exposure with him was just 1 hour in church and 1 hour lunchtime after church. So we never had any time to play. And I remember the only time I had to play with him was for 1 hour. We went to the baseball court here, or field here in Maxwell where he was studying. And I so much regretted that I should have spent more time. Because maybe if I was just there for him, and maybe even though he was masking his depression, he would have at least maybe tell Dad, I'm depressed. I need some help. And I've been telling this to my friends, even at UCLA School of Medicine. The people I work there would say, Dr. Gamo, don't blame yourself. It's not your fault. Your son decided to jump. It was not you who told him to jump. But I said, you know what? If I were an engineer, if I were an architect, if I were a lawyer, and had no medical background, it would have been okay. I would not be as guilty. But a few months before he died, when I asked him, when we saw that entry on the diary, and he said, Dad, I'm depressed, but don't worry about me. I'm seeing a psychotherapist, and the sessions are good. I'm doing well with the psychotherapy sessions.
Listening to you, this is a very powerful statement. First of all, when you said that if I had a different profession, you would really be a little bit acceptable with it, but because you're a doctor. And then second of all, I think that's also pretty common here in the States or other countries where overseas Filipino workers are very hard workers. They work so hard in the end, they forget about their families. And you get to ask question, is it all worth it? Did you ask that yourself?
Yeah, sometimes all the pictures I had of my son in Davao, because I was practicing medicine and I was with 5 hospitals though, but weekends I had time for him. We would always go to the Paradise Island in Davao. There's a place in Samal Island. And he would ride on my back. There's a nice hotel there. There is a picture of me trying to pedal, and he would ride with me. He was always smiling there, and he was such a smart kid, and he came here with us. And the problem was that because he was so smart, I did not foresee that he would be depressed. And I wanted to share this with you. This is, my son.
Here he got a trophy from Maxwell School where he studied. Grade 4, he got a perfect score. Congratulations, Miguel. Maxwell Law School. Perfect score. 600
He's
of
an A student.
not only an A, he's super bright.
Super bright.
He got a perfect score in math for the California Star exam, 600 out of 600. So they gave him a trophy, and he was active in sports. In fact,
He's an achiever.
yeah, so my son, I remember I asked him because he was a short guy, because he didn't get my height yet. So when he was in grade, I believe he was in grade 2 or grade 3, and I said to him, "Are you not being bullied because you're so small?" So, "Dad, they don't do that to me. You know why? I teach them. I help them. I tutor them in math."
Oh, okay.
He was such a good kid, so he knew how to do with his being a math genius. In fact, he was tutoring until he was in UC San Diego for free. And I didn't realize that he was going to Tijuana, Mexico to learn to speak Spanish because he was teaching Latino men and women who were not doing well in high school in math. He was doing it for free.
Oh, wow.
Now, why did he go to Tijuana? Because he wanted to become an effective Spanish speaker so he could explain math in their language.
Oh, so
And he was fluent. I didn't even know that. I only found out because some of his friends said, "You know what? One time we went to Tijuana with him. He was speaking to the Uber driver in Spanish." He was part of what they call reality changers. At the same time, he was also involved in feeding the poor and the homeless with the urban garden, which I'm now doing here at the back. You know, we have an urban garden where I'm growing tomatoes, eggplants. So now I realized I should have been more proactive. Any form of depression, you convince your children, your loved ones, "Hey, you know what? Why don't you get a second opinion with a psychiatrist?" Because they're the ones who can prescribe antidepressant, right? In fact, a week before he died Sunday, right? That Monday, that week, I gave a lecture to my nursing students. And I talked about depression. I said, when people are depressed, don't ever give them any knife or something sharp because they can cut their wrist. Don't give them any belt because they will hang themselves, because serotonin is the chemical that's lacking, and they don't know what's happening to them. That feeling of helplessness occurs, and they can kill themselves.
Right.
I just forgot to mention about jumping from a bridge. And it was Monday. He died Sunday.
Oh.
So it was very ironic that I was talking about depression. I was trying to save other people's lives by in educating my students.
And then for my son to die of suicide, it was so hard.